Hello and welcome to Knitting with Jean. Last week I showed you how to increase your stitches, and this week I'm going to show you how to read a pattern. Cast your mind back to when we did some patterns, and I'm going to show you how that translates into what's written on a pattern. Enjoy! Welcome to Knitting with Jean. We're just going to have a quick recap of what I covered last week, which is increasing your stitches in various ways, and then I'm going to show you some patterns and explain to you how to read what the pattern says and then do it. So I'm going to do a simple increase at the beginning of a row. So knit your stitch, don't let it slide off, and knit into the back of the stitch. So you've changed one stitch into two, and that's called an increase. And then we also did an increase in the middle of a row where we picked that loop up, put it onto the needle, and then knitted into it. And I've thought of another way that you can actually increase. So this was a simple one. I should have showed you it last week. You can just bring your wool round to the front of the work and then do a knit stitch, and you've got what you call a wool over, and that creates another stitch as well. So there you are, 3 different ways to increase. So when you buy a pattern and you decide you're going to knit a garment, usually at the beginning you'll have a list of abbreviations that are going to be used in the pattern, and you need to know what these abbreviations mean. For example, in this pattern it says G stroke ST, which means garter stitch. That's just plain knitting. It also says INC, that means increase. And K is for knit. So, and P is for purl. So you've got lots of things. There's stocking stitch, which just says ST, ST. So whenever you start to read your pattern, they'll use these abbreviations in the written instructions. Let's take a closer look at these abbreviations. So you see here, it says abbreviations, approximately, BEG, beginning. So you see, there's all sorts of strange looking words that you wouldn't come across in normal English. TBL, through the back of the loop. That's one where you're going to, we used that when we were increasing a stitch. We knitted it to the front of the stitch, and then we knitted it to the back of the stitch. And that can be described as through back of loop. TOG, together. That's, do you remember, we knitted 2 together. So when you start to look at your pattern then, it tells you these, and it's like a whole different language that you start to use. But because I've explained it to you, you'll begin to understand what it means. K2TOG, that just means knit 2 stitches together. It's a decrease. And then there's a strange one, YFWD, that means yarn forward. So Y for yarn, and FWD is a short way of saying forward. And then we've got things like brackets where you put instructions inside brackets, and it'll tell you to do the same thing that's inside the brackets. Maybe do it so many times, like in this pattern, it's 6 times. Or knit 2 together 3 times. It's all very strange. But the more you do it and the more you look at the pattern, the more you'll understand what it means. And you can always refer back if you're reading something in the instructions and you think, I don't know what that means, refer back to your abbreviations till you find the explanation for it. Oh, I feel like I've showed you a lot, and it's a lot to take in, but you can always start with something simple. A jumper like that might be a little bit beyond your means if you've only just started to knit, but you could start with a scarf. You just cast on a number of stitches, as many as you wish, and just keep knitting. You could just do garter stitch, or you could do stocking stitch, like this little sample. Knit on one side, purl on the other. Or you could do moss stitch, that's 1 stitch knit, 1 stitch purl. If you've an odd number of stitches on your needle, that'll turn out like that if you do that every row. So just try something and don't worry about making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. and sometimes you have to take it back and sometimes you have to start again. But we've all started with doing that, and it's even experienced knitters quite often end up having to take back their work and fix it. But just enjoy it. I think that's all for this time. So just keep practicing what I've showed you, and next time I'm going to show you some of the equipment I have and some of the things that you'll need, different types of needles, different types of yarns, and anything else I can think of. So goodbye, and goodbye from Knitting with Jean.